Hey, what's going on? I'm Brandon. I'm Guy Who Flies, and I am back with my recap of episode 6 of The Flight Attendant. Quick apologies for being late. However, I was in Mexico on vacation, and HBOmax does not show in that region. So I couldn't watch it Thursday when it came out, and I just got home on Sunday, so here I am. The plan is to release episode 6 on Monday, episode 7 on Wednesday, and the finale, episode 8, on Friday. So let's get into it.
Hey player, what you gonna get, huh, for Christmas? Yeah. What you gonna get that boy? Come on, come on, come on. What you
Like, I feel like at this point in the reviews, I don't need to spend time obsessing over my frustration with casting and her decisions. So I'm gonna try to minimize that this particular review. We open in an emergency room because we know that Max was hit in the last episode, okay? Like, Cassie has lost it. Like, this man is literally in the emergency room and all she can focus on is where's the flash drive? Where's the flash drive? Where's the flash drive? And he's like mad at her. She's like at the point where she's like, Cassie is just making up these impossible stories to believe, and so she doesn't even know to trust her friend anymore. Annie breaks down on Cassie. She like just goes in on her with just her frustration over the sheer situation, while all Cassie is like, well, did they bring his clothes in here? Like, check his pants. There's supposed to be a flash drive. No flash drive. Remember, at the end of episode 5, the flash drive fell out of his pocket when he was hit, and so it's laying in the street. QTNA. But at this point, Cassie is just impossible. Like, she is impossible to talk to. So Annie makes her basically leave the hospital. We see Cassie on the pier. Now that she's isolated, literally her legit only one friend, Annie. So we see her on the pier, and she calls Jada, of all people, like the coworker who wants nothing to do with her. And Jada's like, girl, I don't have time for this. She calls Shane, who doesn't answer. You know, Jada did remind her they're supposed to be working on her own flight. Who knows if that'll actually happen. She calls Megan, and Megan reads her down. She, like, reads completely through her bullshit. Like, no, I can tell you're fake happy to hang with me. And so, basically, everybody who's on her short list of calls has basically turned their back on her. Cassie does slip and tell Megan that she called and left her voicemail in Korean. And Megan makes up some kind of excuse, but now Megan has to figure out a plan to get her to get rid of that voicemail because Cassie refused to delete it. So with all of those people out of the way and not available for her to, you know, drown her thoughts with their presence, she calls Buckley, and then they do what they do. So they wake up the next morning, and while Cassie is laying there, you know, she's having her thoughts. We go back to Alex in her head, and she is, at this point, she is just trying to do everything possible to run away from Alex in her head, which we know is actually her real thoughts. So she's like trying to run, but she's just running through the hotel where he was murdered and just keep running into dead ends or running into him, and it's just like, girl, stop. So he's like chasing her in her mind. But she and Buckley, they end up going to breakfast where they make a fool out of themselves because they're drunk. I mean, he, of all people, is like the wrong person that she needs in her life, but you know, he's the only person that doesn't talk down and, you know, judge her. So in her mind, he's the best person in her life. However, we see the FBI, they're in the empty lionfish warehouse because that has been completely cleaned out because obviously they knew somebody was on there. Miranda is lurking around the warehouse. She's calling people, asking for favors, like, look, don't tell Victor that I'm still in New York. You know, if he asks you, tell him I'm in London or England, wherever he told her to go to. So we flash back, Cassie and Buckley, they're at the bar. They got kicked out of the breakfast brunch spot or whatever, so they're at the bar. At this point, Alex in her head, he has collided with flashbacks and items from her past. So we see more of him chasing her, but then we see like a dead deer laying on the bed with his dead body. You know, at one point she goes out of the apartment and there's like 100 rabbits from all of those rabbit flashbacks in her childhood that are just like running out and chasing her. So she is like freaking out in her mind. She's doing anything possible to get out of her thoughts. So she's at this bar. She notices the guy who's the FBI agent who's been following her, and she's like, I have a stalker. She believes that he works for Lionfish and he's going to kill her because we know that that is the plan. However, she goes and basically tries to confront him and kind of in circle talks around like, are you for the FBI? He won't tell her yes or no either way, and he just basically leaves. But I think she's kind of pieced it together that the FBI is following her, which makes her kind of happy because if he's the FBI, then whoever's trying to kill her, he'll be around to see it and maybe intervene. While she's over there talking to the stalker, Megan then pulled up at the bar in her incognito outfit, her trench coat, and oh, that's what I should have worn there, and her hat. And she done went in there and got the phone off the table, went in the little corner and deleted the voicemail. And I'm like, Mama, I please hope that you deleted it out the trash. I would have did a whole factory reset on the phone if it was me, like everything gone, because she drunk anyway, so she probably would have just thought that she did it herself. But anyway, here nor there, she takes the phone, deletes the voicemail. Cassie is still having flashbacks, and she's still going into these moments with Alex in her head, and he like breaks the truth to her, like, girl, you are a problem. These thoughts are the truth from your memories that you don't want to face. Like, everyone goes in on her, and she's just not believing it. We see the FBI agent who left the bar go outside, and he's sending a text message about basically updating on Cassie's whereabouts. And the next thing you know, his throat gets slit, and it's no other than who? Miranda, because you know she's out here cleaning up the loose ends. Flashback to the FBI office, and we have the two agents, and they're talking through, you know, different pieces of the case, and they have conflicting stories because now the lady, hold on. Agent Hammond is starting to think like, wait a minute, maybe Cassie isn't being completely like untruthful. Like maybe there is some truth to this because some of these things that are happening are in line with her, like some of her stories. And the other agent, Agent White, the dude, he's just on this, like he's got it set in her head that she did it, and it's no use in trying to look at any other possible theory because we know she did it. So we just need to end this right here and there. So their stories are colliding. So I'm like, how y'all gonna wrap this up in, you know, 2 more episodes, QTNAs? Cassie and Buckley leave the bar. They end up at Annie's apartment. Of course, you know, they're drinking. They're trying to figure out something. She feels like she needs to talk to Annie once again. And Annie's actually in the apartment. And so they have another breakdown conversation. But this one is like really, really like friendship breaking. Let's be honest with each other. Let's tell the truth about how we feel about each other and all the things that happen. And it's like, it's so crazy because Annie is calling Cassie out on her BS, and Cassie starts to blame shift, and you know, like she can't take credit, or she can't figure out where she was the cause for a lot of things, and she's just blame shifting. But then there comes a point where she actually tells Annie's like the truth about herself and kind of reads her down a little bit. So they both are just like not good people. But if you had to ask me, I feel like we all know that Cassie is less of a good person. She kicks her out again. I think their friendship is over. On her way out, Cassie makes a statement like, you're gonna regret this, or you're gonna be sad when I wind up dead. And I'm like, the fact that you have that mindset is indicative of the nature that you don't know how to help yourself in this moment. Go to the police. Like, if you feel like your life is in danger, stop trying to solve the problem yourself. Stop trying to drown it with alcohol. Stop trying to cloud it with people. Go get some help. I mean, just go to the fucking FBI. Like, at this point, like, what's the most they're gonna do? Arrest you? But then at least you're kind of safe because you're arrested, and the person who's trying to kill you possibly can't get to you unless they know where you are, and then they wind up locked up to kill you. Go to the FBI. That's all I gotta say. And it's so funny how so much that has been said of Cassie is so true in the nature of that she goes to mess and she creates mess, and she doesn't even see how she pulls other people into her mess and without regard for like their well-being. With the whole situation with Max, she is the #1 cause of that. I mean, he's a grown man. He made the decision to go with her, but like, she's like, I was trying to help you, Annie. And Annie was like, why the fuck were you trying to help me? You don't even know what I had to go through to help you. And it's just crazy. And now I'm like, you got Buckley's drunk ass following you around, and you don't even realize his life is in danger, because whoever's after you, if they need to get to you, they're just gonna kill him to get to you. And I'm like, she doesn't even put 1 and 2 together. Like, you got Buckley following you around, y'all in danger. She and Buckley leave. They on the street. They come across the electric horse. You put the quarter in and you ride the horse, the mechanical horse or whatever. They decide they want to steal it. Alex in her head is trying to like talk her off the ledge. She won't even listen to anything reasonable because she just wants to be as far away from him as possible. They steal this, and their drunkenness end up breaking a car window, and who's on the street other than the police? So they get locked up. Like, they're just spiraling out of control. She is spiraling out of control. Like, what is happening? But I'm like, great. She's arrested. This might actually be good because she can't drink. She's in isolation. she got to confront her thoughts. So I'm like, okay, good. This is good. Like, yes, arrested. Keep her for a long time. And I'm like, ooh, maybe she should call her job and call out for that trip because she's in no state to work. Amy's at the hospital. She calls the secretary, who she's been calling by the wrong name forever, and proves part of Casey's statements about her to be true. But she calls her to give her letter of resignation to give to their boss because she just decided that she's just done too much that is far out of whack from who she should be as a good person and a good lawyer. So she is resigning from her job, even though she's really good at it. That's kind of sad. Miranda, you know, she's still out here. She's trying to tie up all the loose ends with Cassie so that she can get back in good graces with Victor. And then we get this whole car scene, you know, whenever somebody's doing something they're not supposed to be doing, and then they get in the car, and, you know, the camera has panned out, so you see the whole car. You know somebody's in the backseat. Somebody tries to kill her, she ends up killing them. Because Miranda is a what? A bad okay. Cassie's in jail. And like I told you, I think this is a good thing. She's in isolation, and she has to confront all of the flashbacks. So her and Alex in her head are going back through all of these scenes with Cassie, young Cassie, and her dad and her younger brother, and she has this very clear picture of all these different scenes, and they then flip to what really happened, and she's in denial about it, but, you know, basically at some point she comes to realize, like, this is actually the truth. Alex in her head is like, no, this is what really happened. And she's like, no, it can't be. Like, I didn't see it this way. And I'm like, maybe that's because you spent your childhood drunk, so your thoughts were clouded. Like, she doesn't believe she's an alcoholic. She doesn't believe she has a drinking problem. And I'm like, it's clear as day. Does anybody else not know that drinking clouds your thoughts and your inhibitions? And the way you perceive things when you're in a drunken haze can become solidified into your actual memory. Hence what happened to our girl Cassie. But that's on that. She gets her one call, and at this point, girl, you might as well call the Ghostbusters, because I don't even know who you're going to actually call that's going to be able to answer the phone and actually help you. And surprisingly, she calls Davey, her brother, and they have a heart-to-heart reconciliation, and she actually apologizes and takes accountability for her role in his treatment growing up, and he accepts her apology, and he even lets her know that it wasn't all her fault. It was their father's fault that she acted part of the way that she did to him. And I mean, that's completely true. He gave his child alcohol and lots of it, and changed her mental state, and sort of, you know, clouded her own judgment of her brother. Like, that just wasn't cool at all. So that was a heartening moment. And you remember way back in one of them episodes, one of my QT&As was, how was she going to reconcile with her brother? You know, we're coming around to all the questions that I've asked. I mean, they are getting answered one by one. Okay, so Megan's husband is in trouble. Like, there's a scene at their house, and he has to go into work because there's some computer issues. Well, wham bam, we know that Megan is the cause of that because she's out here just fool-la-la with the enemy and just passing along things that she should not know and she should not have access to, and just collecting money. So she's been covering her tracks quite well, but I don't know if she's actually going to be able to get out of this one. So the episode ends with Cassie finding out that her bail has been posted. Of course, the officer won't tell her who did it, and I'm like, we already know who bailed her out. It ain't Annie this soon, and it's not her brother, because she basically told her brother, I don't want you involved in this, and her brother's like, you can lean on me, but she's just not. So it's neither one of them. Like, we all know who did it. She walks out of the jail, walks around the corner. Who's standing there other than Miranda with a gun pointed to her and says, we need to talk. Y'all, that is episode 6. We only have 2 more episodes left, you know, so let's get into these QT&As. 1, how much longer before Detective Hammond solidifies her theory that Cassie is not the one here we need to be going after, and maybe she is telling the truth? Question 2, will, when, where, how will that flash drive be recovered, and will it end up in the right hands? Because that will tell a lot of things. And this whole episode, I'm like, if Cassie weren't so drunk, she would have remembered that, oh, maybe I should go back to the scene of the crime and look for it when it wasn't in his clothing. But, you know, drunk, so, and running away from her own thoughts, so I'm sure that never crossed her mind. And she was running away from Alex, and I talked mess about him, but he might have been the one that actually would have helped her come to that realization, but she ran from him all episode. Number 3, how are they about to wrap this up in 2 more episodes? Like, are we just going to speed through episode 7? I mean, according to some of the research that I've done on the show, they ended it with the possibility of it being over and done, but they also ended it in a way that if they needed to continue it, they could. So I don't know. I mean, I haven't read anything about it being greenlit for season 2, so who knows what will actually happen. But you know what? We're going to be here for the ride. That is my recap of episode 6 of HBO Max's The Flight Attendant. Come on back on Wednesday to see my reaction to episode 7. If you're already not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And hit that notification bell if you want to know immediately when that episode recap drops, okay? Again, I'm Brandon, and I'll see you all next time.